here and some church with so yeah, that's it. We should balance it.
Good morning. We're just about to get going here. Welcome again. I'm Kat McCluskey. I'm the Advocacy and Policy Director here at Organic Seed Alliance, and I have the great honor of co-chairing the event this year. So welcome again. Grateful for all of your time and presence in the room. And very grateful and feel very honored to be facilitating this morning's session, Open Source Seeds Worldwide, Breeding, Growing, Selling, and Spreading. I also want to welcome everyone who's joining us online. Hello. And just make a note that we are offering this as a hybrid session. And so when we get to question and answer, we will be doing that from mics that are set up on the side of the room. We really want to be thoughtful of welcoming our folks online. And so anything that we share and say, let's do it in a mic so they can be part of the conversation. And thank you, Alice and Benjamin, for all of your tech support and hosting our friends who are joining us virtually. But not virtually is our panel, and I will briefly introduce them. We are joined this morning by Almendra Cremaschi. I told you that I would do it, yeah. Almendra is a researcher and associate professor at the University of San Martin in Argentina. They specialize in sustainability transitions and agro-food systems. She co-founded and directs Bioleft, a community-driven laboratory dedicated to open-source seed breeding and exchange. Bioleft aims to democratize plant breeding by supporting participatory practices that involve farmers directly in adapting seeds to meet the demands of diverse, localized conditions. Its co-designed digital platform promotes open science, enabling transparent exchange of data and knowledge. As a member of the Global Open Source Seeds Initiative, Bioleft operates under principles of the Seed Commons, treating seeds as shared resources rather than proprietary assets. Bioleft's work is geared towards creating resilient, biodiversity-rich food systems that are adapted to local ecosystems and less resilient on corporate-controlled seed markets. Her work bridges academic research and real-world application, advocating for collaborative approaches to ecological and just agri-food systems. Welcome. Thank you for traveling all this way. We are also joined by Carol Deppe, or maybe we are joining Carol Deppe, might be more appropriate. Carol is an Oregon plant breeder just across town, I'm told. And Carol holds a PhD in biology and genetics from Harvard University. Well, at least she thinks it's a PhD from Harvard University. Carol says that when she got the diploma, it was in Latin, so she's not really sure. She focuses on breeding plants for superior flavor, organic adaptation, resilience to wild weather and climate change, and human survival for the next 1,000 years, and in teaching others to do likewise. She has bred 20-plus varieties of corn, legumes, and squash, all released as open-source seed initiative pledged varieties. Carol is the author of Breed Your Own Vegetable Varieties, The Gardener's and Farmer's Guide to Plant Breeding and Seed Saving, The Resilient Gardener, Food Production and Self-Reliance in Uncertain Times, and The Tao of Vegetable Gardening, and lastly, The Freelance Plant Breeding. Carol also serves as the chair of the board of directors of OSSI. And next to Carol, we have Andrew Still joining us as well, also local to Oregon. Andrew began working on organic farms in 2003. In 2006, he and his wife, Sarah Klieger, started the Seed Ambassadors Project to promote seed stewardship locally and internationally through seed swaps, seed saving workshops, and the distribution of rare and heritage variety of seeds. In 2009, they started Adaptive Seeds, a farm-based seed company, as a way to further distribute the varieties they had collected with the Seed Ambassadors Project. Adaptive Seeds offers organic, open-pollinated, diverse, and resilient seed varieties for ecologically minded farmers, gardeners, and seed savers. Thank you. And Andrew's role at Adaptive Seeds includes management of both the seed collection and plant breeding projects. Apologies to my translators for my Midwestern very fast talking. I'm slowing it down. And last but not least, we are joined by Daniel Wanjama today. Daniel founded Seed Savers Network in 2019. Since then, SSN has grown to more than 87,000 members and established 76 community seed banks. He has a strong faith in traditional knowledge ability to provide solutions to challenges that we are facing in farmers' managed seed systems and organic seeds. Daniel is a member of the iFoam Seeds platform, steering committee member of the Global Open Source Seed Initiative, and vice president of Intercontinental Network of Organic Farmers Organizations. After working for more than 20 years in the agricultural sector, he has come to realize that we cannot achieve food security without food sovereignty, and we cannot have food sovereignty without seed sovereignty. He's committed to improving access to organic seeds by farmers in Kenya and Africa at large, given there are no organic seed companies in the region. Very quickly, I also just want to share with us the community agreements. You'll be hearing these throughout the week, but we're going to be opening up this community space that we're creating together for the next 90 minutes. And Benjamin, can you give me a slide for the community agreements? Or no? I do it. I have so much control that I don't even know I have. Okay. I don't know how to do that. Benjamin's coming. So I'm going to start with a particular community agreement. But we all have a role in tending to this space. Oh, that's why you had it open. It's not a touch screen, just in case you're up here. Wow. Okay. So we all have a role in tending to this space. And during this conference, we agreed to speak for ourselves and make space for others. Be as present as possible. Be aware of who is missing in each conversation. Remember that no one has a monopoly on truth and everyone's experience is valid. That we critique ideas and not people. That we listen to our bodies and we tend to their needs. That we give some grace for technical and logistical difficulties. Thank you. And for everyone who was on the farm tour bus that got stuck yesterday. And that we aim for connection and not perfection. So with that, we're going to hear from each of our presenters, and then at the end, we'll have time for question and answer. I'm going to turn it over to you all.
Good morning, everyone. I started breeding plants back in the 1980s, and by the 1990s, the varieties that were available were increasingly hybrid varieties or varieties that had intellectual property associated with them. When the university plant breeders began releasing varieties with PVPs on them or other forms of intellectual property, I was kind of upset about it, but I understood. But I also thought that varieties that had PVPs attached to them basically changed the fundamental nature of the seed system towards a pattern that was going to make it harder for humanity to survive the next 10,000 years. And I think somebody's got to worry about 10,000 years, so why not somebody who's almost 80? Because 10,000 is not that different from 99 from my point of view. I thought I needed to do something about this. My idea was that we needed different plant breeders who cared more about organic systems and cared more about the resilience being inherent in the seed itself instead of coming from pesticides and soluble fertilizers and so on. And we needed a whole army of plant breeders outside of the universities and outside of the big international seed companies who believed in organics and basically had a different set of values. So I started writing books for farmers and gardeners on plant breeding. The army of plant breeders has come to pass with my help and the help of a whole lot of other people. We now have quite a lot of independent plant breeders in this country, and most of them are actively breeding for the organic space. So we had this army of plant breeders, but most people didn't even know about us, and we didn't have a clubhouse of our own, basically. Well, what happened then was at University of Wisconsin, there was this guy named Jack Kloppenberg, and he was spending his entire professional career in the Department of Community and Ecological Sociology at University of Wisconsin. And his specialty was the seed system, and he was interested in tracking the changes that were happening in the seed system. And basically what he was tracking was the loss of seed sovereignty and the loss of the ability of farmers and gardeners to use seed the way that they wanted to. His work culminated in a book that is First the Seed. And after he published that book, he got tired of just tracking the loss of seed sovereignty and decided it was time to do something about it. So he joined up with other academic people, farmers, university plant breeders, independent plant breeders, the seed sovereignty advocates, and the result was Open Source Seed Initiative that we call OSSI. Well, shortly after OSSI was formed, I read Jack's book, and I OSSI pledged all my varieties, and then joined the board of directors of OSSI, and my life and OSSI have been intertwined ever since, basically. What I'm going to do today is talk about 3 of the varieties that I've bred that are varieties that are have particular resilience to wild weather and climate change that are now being sold by seed companies. And I'm going to talk about the plant breeding in terms of simple rules. You know, forget about the genetic approach at the moment, but just simple rules that anyone could do. And if you want the more technical information, well, I wrote a whole book about that too. So you can choose your approach, your combined approaches. I'm going to start off talking about breeding a cow pea, a fast lady northern southern pea. Cow peas are mostly grown in the southeast of the United States when it comes to in this continent. And in Oregon, people don't generally grow cow peas, and they don't eat cow peas because they don't grow well in Oregon because it's too cold in the summer, and the nights are really cold, and cow peas do not like that. But I spent 3.5 years as a high school student in Georgia, so I learned to love cow peas, or southern peas as they're called there, or black-eyed peas or Crowder peas. Well, all I was trying to do was find a variety that would grow here so I could eat cow peas. So I got about a dozen varieties that were the earliest varieties that I could find, and did a variety trial. So I just had a short row of each of these varieties, and at the end of the season, when the heavy rains were due, I went out and looked at the plot. And of the dozen or so varieties, all but one variety was nowhere near producing anything at all. The one variety was a little variety, a little pea called lady pea, and it actually had pods with green seed on them, so it could be harvested for green seed. But in order to be able to produce it myself in Oregon, it needed to be dry at that point in the year, because when the rainy season comes, that's kind of all she wrote in terms of bean production. Well, with respect to this pea, there was one particular plant about halfway down the row that was completely dried off. So of this trial, none of the varieties would actually work here, but one plant would. Well, that's the way a lot of plant breeding projects start. My first rule of plant breeding, my first plant breeding method is just notice things. My second plant breeding method is be very pessimistic and optimistic simultaneously. So I looked at that plant and I said, you could be the earliest lady pea or the earliest cow pea in the entire country. You could expand the range of this variety to, who knows, people might even be able to grow it in Canada by the time I'm done with you. You'll conquer the world, I'm sure. And then the other part of me says, maybe you dried off so fast because you died early because you got diseased. And you're the only diseased plant in the whole field. And, it's amazing how many people try to start a plant breeding project with something that is actually just a seriously diseased plant. I went and looked at the plant and opened the pods, and the seed looked healthy. And I looked at the total amount of seed on the plant, because a disease kind of by definition impairs the plant's ability to function, and that really translates into yield. So you can actually get pretty good selection for disease resistance simply by always watching yield and never harvesting seed that you plan to replant from any plant that is less than average yield. So this little plant had as much seed as the other plants, but it was actually earlier. It was a couple of weeks earlier. So I saved seed from that plant and planted it out the next year. And the third plant breeding method I would say is never start selection in the first 2 or 3 years, because at that point, the first year after you've done a cross, or the first year after you've discovered an unusual new kind of plant in your garden, you only have a few seeds, and you might have one copy of a gene that's really important, and it might be in a poor plant. And you would lose that if you start selecting at that point. The next method of plant breeding is, I always do my plant breeding under conditions that are exactly the same as what I'm going to ask the finished variety to do. So all my varieties are selected on organic managed land. And if the crop is to be direct seeded, I will direct seed it all the way through, because when you direct seed, you select for something different than you do if you transplant. You get a different kind of root system. So after I'd grown the seed for maybe about 3 years or so, I had enough seed so that we could start eating the seed. And I always kept seed from plants that were in the first half of the harvest time. So I didn't just choose the earliest plants, but I chose the earliest half of the plants. And I also chose plants that were at least average in yield, not the ones that were necessarily the highest yield. And I call this gentle selection. And gentle selection, by that I mean I try to gently move the entire population genetically in the direction that I'm interested in. So after a few more years, this time selecting, I ended up with this variety that I named Fast Lady Northern Southern Pea. I did not try to select for broad adaptation initially, because I was one person who had one field. And there's a lot of small seed companies around who can make very good use of a locally adapted variety. If the only seed companies that exist are huge seed companies, that's just trash to them. But for a small local seed company, it's valuable. Is that 3 minutes left to go, or okay? Instead of talking about further about this, let me stop and ask Jack to start passing out the seed. There is a variety, Goldini zucchini too. I'm not going to discuss how I bred that, because it's actually, the variety is available at, or descriptions of how to breed that variety is up on the Aussie website on a podcast. Anyone who is willing to honor the pledge to pass the seed on only with the pledge on it is welcome to have seed of this variety. The pledge basically just commits you to never put any IP on the variety or any derivatives of it, and always pass the pledge along with the seed. And the other variety, the breeding project I was going to talk about, it was a corn project, Cascade Ruby Gold Corn. The main point I was going to make with that is that when you've got a variety that you really like the characteristics of, but it's lacking some characteristic you really need, in this case, good husk coverage, you cross it to something that's got that characteristic. And then you just let open pollination happen for at least about 3 generations or so, and then you start selecting for the combination of characteristics. The point I want to make about, main point I want to make about breeding Goldini is, we're about done, is that, actually I'd probably better stop there. It gets too complicated from there. Has everybody had a chance to get seeds if they want seeds?
But it's still passing this.
Still passing it around. Okay. I will cut out and let Alma take over now.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you for being here. My name is Almendra. I come from Argentina on behalf of Bioleft, an initiative I'm going to talk about. I'm really, really honored to be here. It's really hard to follow Carol, but I really appreciate the space. I really appreciate the invitation of our friends of the Open Source Seed Initiative, so I will do my best to share our story. And I'm sorry, how can I, with this. I'm so sorry. Oh, good. Okay. Just give me a minute. Okay. Okay, great. So in these minutes, I'm going to try to tell you a story of what is Bioleft and how we came to be what we are today. So I'm going to start presenting the challenges that inspired us to act, especially in Argentina. Then I will introduce Bioleft as a community lab seeking to create alternative, decentralized seed systems. And I will focus on our commons-based participatory plant breeding approach that is a fancy name for a combination of things we did. So in Argentina, as in many other countries, the coevolution or the historical coevolution of proprietary technologies, hybrids, GMOs, market-oriented policies, not only IPR, but science, public science underfunding, and corporate power have led to academic capitalism, market concentration, and farmer dependency on expensive, narrow-based seeds. Meanwhile, family farmers, organic farmers, agroecological farmers who are trying to build more sustainable, diversified systems struggle to find seeds adapted to their needs, to their agroecological conditions, to the prices they can afford. So with that in mind and with that concern, we started talking. And here is a video of one of the farmers, but I am not sure if we have sound here or if I just should skip it. Okay, so if you want to visit our YouTube channel, that video is there, and it's an organic farmer talking about how hard it is for him to find seeds adapted to his system. At the same time, it's okay, and then I'm going to distribute some leaflets, so don't worry about the QR. So at the same time, Argentina was discussing a change in the seed law that was really problematic because we have UPOP 78, which allows farmers to reuse seeds and breeders to do that so. But at the same time, at that time, Argentina was discussing a movement towards UPOP 91. And that for us, although it was a critical moment, meant a window of opportunity to act because different people who usually didn't collaborate were willing to do something together, even though they have different strategies, different views about the future of seeds. They were just eager to act, and that was a really inspirational moment for us to start doing something. And we had a visit of Claire Luby in Argentina, so thank you so much, that told us about open source. And we were really compelled by that idea because we felt that it was a bridge. Open source for us was a bridge to join different communities that were trying to do something, but they didn't understand each other, or they didn't collaborate each other, or they were thinking about details. But this idea of open source that was weird, that was foreign, that came from software and whatever, it was an excuse to start talking. And that is how Bioleft was created, out of these weird combinations, weird partnerships. So in an exercise during the pandemic, we defined ourselves in this beautiful phrase that is that Bioleft is a community lab because we experiment. We do something together, although we don't know the result of it. We are this sick seed that Carol was mentioning. So we are a community lab of open source seed exchange and breeding to offer solutions or to think of solutions to the challenges of agriculture. And we try to link local and scientific knowledge to strengthen the role of farmers in seed conservation and breeding. This was in 2016, and we were really excited about starting this open source idea. This is some of my colleagues. Some of them were really young in these pictures, and some of them are online. So, hi everybody, look where we got. And so then we faced one of the first challenges, how to apply this. We were a group of people mainly volunteer-based. So how could we enforce, how could we disseminate this idea of open source? Some of us weren't even agronomists or academic, we were just activists. So we created and we adapted our own Bioleft agreement that is open source too. We created a material transfer agreement, a clause to a material transfer agreement, a pledge, whatever you want it to be, just to say that seeds will remain available and will remain open, not only legally but also technologically. And that seeds you receive will remain open to others, the same pledge as you have, but that can be adapted or crafted to different needs. Because, for example, there were public breeders that had certain restrictions, so we were adapting and crafting different tools, legal tools, but with one core that was open source, open to distribute, open to continue, or to create a common pool of seeds and knowledge. So we thought that a platform could be a way to implement this in all our country. It could be a tool, a vehicle to distribute these licenses. And as we are an open source initiative, we created an open source seed platform. So this platform has now 1,700 users, and connect people that produce seeds with people that need seeds, because there was always this thing of, I can't find the seeds I need and I am producing seeds but I don't know what to do with them. So we were connecting people, or the platform was connecting people, and we created a catalog to upload seeds and say, hey, these seeds are open source. And although sometimes people do not have the quantity to distribute them, I mean, it's not a market, so you can just say, I have these seeds and they are open source. So as long as they are available, you can use it. You can use them. Now we have more than 300 seed varieties in our platform. So we said, okay, we have open source, but what seeds? We weren't tackling this challenge of farmers not having seeds adapted to their needs. I mean, the seeds that we found were open source and we were creating this pool, but more seeds were actually needed. So we started to experiment again with participatory plant breeding. And this is what I'm going to present. So in 2018, we started an experiment with participatory plant breeding as an umbrella concept. Again, open source and participatory plant breeding are not recipes. They are umbrellas that can inspire people to do things in different ways. I mean, we don't have a method to share. We just have experiences and ways to adapt them. So the core of participatory plant breeding, in the way we see it, is that facilitates collaboration between farmers, breeders, what we call farmer breeders, that are farmers that do breeding, but in Argentina, independent breeders do not exist because of the structural conditions. So we started to call them farmer breeders, extension workers, consumers, and to develop tools to adapt seeds to specific needs, soil, climate, and cultural conditions. And there we found another challenge. Well, how to implement participatory plant breeding, how to invite everybody to participate, how to welcome everybody in these processes. Argentina is a really, really big country with rich soil and climate diversity, and we wanted everybody to be able to participate. So, as some of us are social scientists, we started to build on citizen science approaches to collect data, to ensure that people could contribute with robust information, and that we could be able to analyze and give feedback from that information. So, going back to our platform, we co-designed virtual fieldbooks that people can use to track the performance of their varieties. They can share, people can create projects. People can create projects with for different purposes, deciding together what they want to observe, what traits are they going to pay attention to, and monitor the seeds. Sometimes there are farmers, for example, in one of the projects I'm going to present now, there are farmers that are in Patagonia, that is a very cold south region for us, and farmers that are to the very north of Argentina, and they exchange information about the development of their seeds, how the behavior of their seeds, and that is amazing. So this is how we created what we call this common-based participatory breeding approach that, of course, has many failures, and it's slow, and we have found many stones in the way, but it's just a fancy way to say that we are combining things, that we are arranging things that are together to create a more distributed, collaborative seed system. We now have two main projects. One of them is in maize and the other one is in tomato. I'm going to briefly describe them. The maize project started in 2019 with this beautiful exercise that you can see here that is called avatars, and that we borrowed from friends in Mexico, in which farmers were drawing their super maize, the maize that was their superhero. And one of the things they said that they drew was, well, we like tillering, we like planophile leaves because they help us to control weed, to save water. And the breeders were amazed because these seeds or these characteristics they discarded because they thought they were a loss of energy. So this anecdote, I really like it because it's one of the things that came up as pearls of wisdom, as this serendipity of combining the strange. So we started training sessions and collaborative evaluation on farms. We use a method like similar to mother and baby. We combine trials in experimental stations like formal ones with distributed trials on farm, and we create these encounters to monitor the development of the seeds, to monitor the performance, to discuss what we want. And from one project, we have got 3 maize varieties that are open-pollinated. One of them is called Original, and it's the result of the work of Enrico Cresta, that is this farmer and friend. That is a 100% GMO-free maize variety, specifically for organic farming. It's being registered now, and of course it's open source. The other one is Sombra, in Spanish, shadow, developed by public sector breeders, and that is in the market now. And the other one, it's UPL Adelia, and the name is really fun because we found out that he wanted to say open pollinated variety, so VPL, but it was a confusion in the talk, so it was UPL, but that is it means nothing. So now it's really being distributed and used by farmers, and this is something that we found on internet, that there is an agroecological advisor, that is recommending this variety for a specific region of Argentina. So we are really proud of this process. And the second one I'm going to briefly introduce is tomatoes. We, the breeders of one of the faculties of Argentina recovered 160 tomato varieties that were stole from our country and that were in Germany, Europe, some in the US. So they recovered it, and then they came to Bioleft and say, what do we do now? Because now we do have all these seeds, so what do we do? So we started a participatory plant breeding process towards taste and to recover the taste of tomatoes. So we have now like approximately 60 evaluators, 60 persons that are evaluating the tomatoes around the country. We co-designed protocols to evaluate the tomatoes, not only based on what breeders wanted, but on what people wanted. And I'm going faster because I have to finish. And people are already exchanging seeds. I really recommend this. This is a video, and I really recommend it to watch it because it's beautiful, because it's a public tasting in which people are trying their tomatoes they produce, and it's beautiful. So to sum up, why are we here? What do we want to share with you? So we have moved from a narrow-based system that closes down the results to a commons-based participatory breeding. That doesn't matter, it's just an idea. But what we like it is that it opens up the ideas, the knowledges, the people, the seed varieties, the objectives, and it also broadens up at the beginning. We have like 3 tomato varieties, 3 maize varieties that are very different one from each other, but we also have a network, we have a community, we have more capacity, universities. We have developed training sessions. Some of them are on YouTube. Yeah, I'm finishing. We are in the news, like the tomato project it's really, people really like it. We are part of the Global Open Source Seed Initiative, and this that I put here, it's an article led by farmers that they presented at an agroecology conference, presenting their own work. So we are really proud of that. Of course, we have challenges, financial challenges, time, institutional resistance. Now with the new government, we are facing a lot of barriers. But the thing is that I wanted to share is that I really like this image of the spiral, because we just keep going, keep incorporating ideas, and for us, open source is an open door. It's an excuse, it's a bridge, it's an excuse to do together. So thank you.
And right this. That. So I guess that. No. Now without a Seattle. Our risk with it. I'll just need to only about. Oh. Sorry. So. Sorry. Right. Hey. Isn't it? It's peaceful, but sort of. Election. They're called, what do you do? It's the name. They love. Just going to have to look over again. Son? Yeah, you might. Guess you ought to look. Can you look there in a second? And it just. I use this and the under these sticks. If I did. Triple chip. Clear what? What's in the one has hot? Oh. That. The. Here, I'll get it. You just have to come down from that. Sign out bad you. Yeah. Sorry. It doesn't quite. It works, but you have to. That's right. That's moving big there. Back. Put that. Yeah.
Good morning.
What is Spence? Cut it. Okay.
So, as you have heard, my name is Daniel Wanjama, you can see. I am from Kenya, and I traveled a long way to come here. Yeah, I still have some jet lag. If you see me sleeping, yeah. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, if you see me sleeping, you must know Kenyan are already sleeping. They have already started going to bed.
Yeah.
So we are here because we are also members of GOSI, Open Source, Global Open Source Seed Initiative, and we started this work back 15 years ago, but in 2017 we started interacting with this idea of open source seed, thanks to visit by Jack in East Africa sometimes around that time. And since then, we are using this approach to make sure that farmers are able to access seeds and to make sure that farmers' rights are also observed. And we are facing various challenges because our farming system is based on small-scale farmers. Basically, more than 80% are small-scale, and more than 80% of the seeds used in Kenya are also coming from farmers. Yeah. But it's funny that our policies, our seed laws, our regulations don't recognize farmer seeds. Instead, the farmer seeds are criminalized. So, and this is based on the global seed law, which is UPOV 1991, and the landscape in terms of the laws is the same across the continent, in the sense that the laws, the local policies in individual countries don't recognize farmers' varieties, don't recognize farmers' seed system, and the laws are only designed to support commercial seed system, yet the systems provide about 20%, or even less in some countries, about 20% of the seeds that are used by the farmers. Particularly in Kenya, we have done some studies, and we have realized it is true, it's not a hearsay, that our farmer-managed seed system contributes more than 80% of the seeds that are used. Yet those seeds are not recognized in law. And of course, because of the restrictions for the seed movement, seed sharing, and seed selling by the farmers, because of those restrictions, we have also done some surveys, and we have realized that we have lost more than 71 local varieties, because they can only be exchanged within the villages, and they cannot be exchanged or shared beyond the village because of the restrictions that exist. So based on the seed laws, part of the seed laws problem that we have is that any seed company or any private breeder can discover a farmer variety, because our laws describe, for instance, for you to get intellectual property rights on seeds, you are only supposed to discover, and discover means you describe any variety that is not in the national catalog. I think here you are lucky you don't have the national catalog, but in Kenya and many other countries we have a national catalog that any variety to be sold or to be commercialized must be on that national catalog. So if you find any variety that is not in the national catalog, then you're able to describe it and submit it, and you own it from that moment. So to just prevent that from happening, we are together with farmers groups participatory describing our local varieties, just to say that these varieties existed before anybody come and say they want to own them. Of course, the concept of open source seed there in Kenya and many other African countries is not known. People don't even believe you can imagine that you are going to have a variety then, and you are going to set it free for it to be accessed by everyone. There, it is not known. So people there believe that if you register any variety, you own it. And it's surprising, even public breeders public breeders who work for the for the public universities or public research institutions, they also apply for ownership, obtaining intellectual property rights on the seeds that they describe. And sometimes when they do this, because a lot of varieties are farmers' varieties, have not been described, they are not in the national catalog. So the easiest way for a breeder, I know breeders like Carlo, for you work and make your own varieties. But in Kenya, a lot of breeders, they just describe what exists and then they own that. So for us to prevent that from happening, we have described over 100 varieties of farmers' varieties. And this is to make sure that we are able to have some information regarding what we have. And of course, we also working on how to address the issue of restrictive seed laws. So this restriction, one of them is what I have mentioned here, giving away our local varieties for ownership to private sector, which is also some sort of biopiracy. And the other issue is that the laws do not allow farmers to share, exchange seeds, even sell. And these are common practices, traditional practices that have existed for centuries, and the practices are what have enabled our food system to thrive and biodiversity to be sustained for thousands of years. So in response to that, we have worked together with a group of farmers who have taken government to court to seek clarification, because Kenya is also a signatory to International Treaty for Plant Genetic Resources of Food and Agriculture. And when we have signed this agreement that give farmers rights, but our Seed and Plant Varieties Act withhold the rights of the farmers, and also we have a constitution that recognizes farmers' right to ownership of genetic resources and also traditional practices. So because of that, seeking interpretation on who is wrong between act that is based on UPOV and our constitution, and also this international treaty, that case has been postponed several times. The judges have been changed several times because I think they see it's obvious that if it is determined, then they will lose. So it's the only thing they do is change the judges. Now the hearing will be on 20th of May, and we are happy that we have also received a lot of international support in terms of the media, and we are hoping that what could be determined in that case, it would also have an impact in other countries where the legal system are the same, where the act that governs seeds is the same. And you know, this kind of act is across the region, and it's basically done by multinationals who are selling seeds through lobbies, and they're able to make the laws and make suggestions, and the government just implement. By the time they realize what they have done, it's too late.
Yeah.
So we are also creating a lot of awareness in terms of people to know about this. We are happy because of this forum. This is part of the forum that we are happy to share these experiences, and we are also focusing on women as special category because they are the one who conserve indigenous varieties. I'm sorry to say, even if I'm a man, men are a lot of time focusing on a hybrid and other varieties that could give them more money, and therefore they end up neglecting indigenous and local varieties. Yeah. So we recognize the special role played by women. And in terms of open source seed, what we have done, we have realized that this challenge of protecting our local varieties from being discovered, and also the idea of having it participatory with the farmers, so that we cannot describe our varieties the way the authorities want, because if we do that, it means we discriminate farmers. We work aside from the farmers, because farmers are not able to use, for instance, the DUS criteria that is used by the authorities to register ownership of varieties. So what we have done is to develop terms and conditions is based on material transfer agreement. That is our kind of our open source ideology, to protect not just registered varieties, but also the varieties that have not been documented. And we also are promoting community seed banks. This is to ensure seed access in terms of having also an online seed exchange platform, very much maybe similar to Argentina. And we are also having seed fairs, so that people can be able to buy a seed. Now that these seed farmers varieties are not allowed to move legally, they cannot be moving through the shops. They can only move through the seed fairs and seed festivals and online seed exchange platform. There is no law that governs the online seed exchange. So we are looking at that and having that as an avenue where seeds move. And of course, we have a lot of capacity building initiative. Part of what we are doing is promoting an incubation for local entrepreneurs, to make sure that the local entrepreneurs who are able to use local varieties can use them and commercialize these varieties. And once they are commercialized, we believe they are going to be conserved, because we can increase consumption. And of course, we are developing seed school in Kenya, where the farmers are the trainers. Like farmers are it's farmer-led, to make sure that people are able to get training from the farmers, because we believe a lot of people, other people are wrong, but farmers are right. And we also, and I'm happy to learn from Carol that we are doing it wrong. One thing that we are doing wrong is we are starting selection immediately after a collection. And now I understand from your presentation that we should have had several years to start selection. But maybe we are going to rectify that. So for climate change, what we are doing is that we are planting so many varieties and selecting continuously for climate resilience in terms of drought. We have seen a lot of changes in nowadays, especially with the drought, having like even 4 or 5 times losing a crop because of drought. So we are trying to select drought-tolerant varieties, and also those that are tolerant to pests and diseases, to make sure that even if climate continues changing, we can continue eating. And yeah. So we are happy to have this global conversation. We are also involved in policy reviews, because especially of taking action by taking government to court. Now we are invited a lot of time by policymakers in government to participate in policy review and also to participate in regulations review. Of course, we are not yet there. We continue putting the pressure, and we are happy to collaborate and partner with all of you to make sure that we are making environment better and farmers can enjoy their right. And thank you very much.
Where's you go probably is that east home and then we go to sorry bring in service to that. This one on so Daddy was the swimming. I think I'd make the game coconut from my desktop. One is straight. Quickly seconds. There you go. It's a slideshow. Didn't please that. The new so that I would be still. A lot of the next thing. Then, because did the god. And that's it. That means look lessons. This keep full research focus. But I just say anything into the no absolutely. You know how to switch to the radio. We'll save this out there some middle yeah like you can't do.
Okay. Hello. This is great. It's good to see you all. I'm really excited. So I'm Andrew from Adaptive Seeds, and I'm going to tell a little story about why we value open source seeds and why we think it benefits our business as a seed company. I'm also going to tell a little bit of stories about our plant breeding and why we want to do this kind of work, and hopefully encourage anyone out there that wants to pledge varieties as open source with the Aussie pledge to be welcome to do so. So we have a small organic farm out near Sweet Home, Oregon, 40 minutes from here, and we grow about 600 varieties, mostly on the farm, that we produce for our catalog. And we also breed a lot of varieties and create many diverse gene pool mixes. So we are a strong supporter of Aussie, and we pledge all of our varieties as open source when we release them, and it brings us great joy to do so. So why did we get into producing seeds to begin with? Really, it's the same reason why we think open source is cool, because we really, really love biodiversity. It's just like the thing that makes us feel like life is worth living sometimes. Just to experience this on a daily basis is just, it makes a lot of the darkness lift. So it's one of those things that we want to promote and share that with everyone, encourage more people to share as much biodiversity as possible. We really like making high quality, open pollinated seeds available to gardeners and farmers. So part of that process is growing as much as possible and sharing as much as possible and discovering what works in our area and sharing our stuff with people that might grow well in other places. Hopefully we hope that this would lead to a more resilient, healthier food system that is not just based on the same old corporate seed that most farmers are producing. Or more gardeners can produce the food that we eat as a society. We believe that limiting open access to germplasm is on the food and the seed that we rely on to survive is the opposite of our goal. So this is when it got really real for us. Back in 2020, there was a giant fire a few miles away from our farm, and we ended up having to evacuate every seed off of our farm across the valley, and cross our fingers that our entire situation didn't burn to the ground. Fortunately, the fire stayed away, and we kept going back wearing gas masks to harvest the seed during that time of year when you have to keep harvesting seed in the smoke. But it really brought it home that we have no idea what's going to happen. We think that climate's changing in a particular way. It might be better, it might be worse. It's probably going to be really hard to adapt to either way. So it's one of those things that this really made us believe that we need to start working on biodiversity for the future as much as possible now. And we don't trust the industrial seed system to do that for us, to be part of that process. They rely too much on reacting to what's profitable, and they don't really they're not in the business of helping the food system. They're in the business of just trying to make it work and make some money while they do it. And so having that goal is really important to help adapt to the future. And in that I want to tell a few stories about the industrial food system that make me motivated to save seed and pledge stuff Aussie, which is that there's a lot of ways that seed is like not available and not accessible in the world. And there's we heard a couple stories earlier about in other countries. And in this country, it's mostly due to privatization and hybridization and making seeds proprietary that are owned by companies or patented, etc. This is one of my favorite graphs, my sad graph of onion diversity in the United States. This was the seed diversity of onions. Yellow onions in 1981, there were 95 open pollinated onions that were yellow in this country. And then by 2004, there was 47. There's less than that now. And we saw this and thought, we want to grow onions. And now we have like 10 onion varieties in the catalog. I don't really know why we have so many, but maybe it's this graph that convinced us to do so. One of the things that people think that seeds disappear because they're not useful anymore, but that's not true. So we looked up in this book, the Garden Seed Inventory, and found this variety of sweet Spanish onion called Colorado No. 6. And we saw that in 81, there was 5 seed companies selling it, and in 2004, there was 1. And we're like, who's still selling it in 2020? So we went and we found it, and Burrell Seeds was still selling it. So we got the seeds, we grew it out. It was amazing. It did really great in our climate. It's like, why is only one company growing this? It's a classic onion from Colorado that no one is producing anymore. Luckily, I've seen a few other organic seed farmers and seed companies starting to produce it and sell it. Maybe a few in Colorado too, which is cool. But it disappeared because everyone was switching to hybrids. And we wanted to prevent that because that doesn't lead to resilience in the end. And yeah, it's really great. It feels good to save something from going extinct. This is the classic picture of seed consolidation, which is another reason why seed diversity is going away, because they own the seed. When they consolidate, they drop half the catalog, they move on, they make more money. And that's not going to lead to any kind of resilience or adaptation in the future. It'd be really cool to see a version of this where it's small seed companies all interconnected, sharing seeds amongst each other, and how we're actually doing the opposite of this. That would be fun to see. Maybe somebody is doing it. This is where I get really. I want to gripe a little bit about something. This is a graph by the wonderful organization known as SIPA of the amount of PVPs and patented lettuce varieties over time. And going into 2020, you can see they used to PVP stuff. Now they're just patenting things, and more every year in a slow creep. And that's one reason why we don't have access to a lot of biodiversity, and a lot of why farmers are all planting the same patented seeds, because this is how they feed the industrial seed system. Also, they have a snitch line. Where I come from, snitches are disrespected more than thieves. So this is something that I saw this and it really kind of riled me up, because there's a lot of we want to privatize more, and I think that Aussie is an alternative to that and can actually push back on that process quite well. And this is the pledge. We should probably say it out loud that we're here. You have the freedom to use these Aussie pledge seeds in any way you choose. In return, you pledge to not restrict others' use of the seeds or their derivatives by patents or other means, and to include the pledge with any transfer of those seeds or their derivatives. So the Aussie pledge is pretty much saying, we want to restrict you from restricting seeds. And some people have a problem with that. But it's kind of self-contradictory if they think about it for a second, that their problem with us restricting their right to restrict. So it's a really cool thing. And I think that a lot of people see this and they don't really, it's not the pledge necessarily that a lot of plant breeders are obsessed with. It's what they're obsessed with is sharing seeds with each other. And it really is just about sharing seeds as easily as possible and removing the friction and the worry of whether or not it's something that's going to be okay or not to share seeds. So that's the main reason why we really love Aussie, is because it encourages people and symbolizes that this is what we all want to do. If you want to join the club, you want to share the seeds, come on board. We'll share with you. When we get this is just an example of some of the biodiversity that we've been crossing together and pledged as Aussie. 14 varieties of European kales crossed together in a gene pool mix and selected in our area. So we like taking stuff like that we have inherited or bred a little bit and feel like it should be pledged as open source, because if you think about it, what did we do as plant breeders? We crossed this stuff, we made some selections for 10 years. That's barely a fraction of 1% of the work that went into this. Like we can't own that. Even if it's our variety, we don't own it. So it's, we think that we should pass that legacy on. So we also think that Aussie is a really great thing, kind of like certified organic, that like helps customers realize what you're up to simply and easily, and they value that. It's a value proposition. It's like, yeah, come to us. We have this cool open source seeds, and they value that, so they want to buy more from us. So it's not just about the principles of why we're trying to build a better world, but because the customers actually like it, and it leads to a more sustainable business. So, for example, we have on our website the USDA logo. This one was grown by us that year, and it's Aussie. So people know real quick that like, oh, this is easy. I'll grow that and maybe save some seed and maybe sell it myself someday. And we won't have a problem with that. We'll actually be really excited. Another thing is the amount of collaboration we do with collaborative plant breeding. This is open oak party mix corn. We crossed a bunch of dent corns together and selected it for our climate, and it has been a pretty effective plant breeding project for us. But our friend Lucas Niebert took it because he knew it was open source and he was allowed to breed with it, and he didn't even need to ask us. And he selected it under dry farming conditions for several years and did sibling crosses and like an ear to row selection for dry farming. And he's actually selected a version of this corn that's called Wildfire Dent that is quite a bit more resilient in dry farm conditions and drought tolerant. So that would never have happened if it was something that I was a little bit proprietary about. And I'm really excited about that collaboration. And it just removed the friction. It's like, please do this. We want more of this. And I think that's really what Aussie is about. So I want to kind of finish by telling people a little bit more about the organization and what we're doing and why it might benefit seed companies and plant breeders to participate. So the Aussie website has over 570 varieties that have been pledged open source seed initiative with that pledge. And you can check it out on the website if you want to go there and look to see what's been pledged. We're probably going to be adding a few dozen more really soon, which is exciting. It's cool to have your variety up here because people see it up here and they're like, oh, that's legit. Maybe I'll try that. Like any reason to convince people to grow your seeds is good by me. And also, the seed company partners that we have at Aussie we're really proud of that fact. And we're up to 80 seed company partners, I believe, at the moment. A lot of small seed companies. Some of them might not be in operation anymore, but a lot of them are new and small and big ones, all kinds. We have our map of seed company partners all across the country and across the world. In mostly English-speaking countries, it'd be cool to make it a bigger thing, more global, which is why we like working with the global open source seed initiatives. And it just means a lot to us to see this. And every time we add a seed company partner that's on board with Aussie that wants to pass the pledge on with the seeds, we get really excited. And many of our customers are also plant breeders, which is really rewarding to think about as a plant breeder. Having another plant breeder get your seed and do something with it is one of the greatest joys that I have as a seed grower. And so this is just a pretty lettuce that we've been working at that we're really hoping to introduce soon, but it's something that we want people to take and save seed and move forward with and adapt. So to close, other than just like customers like it and it's pretty quick, they kind of get it because everyone's heard of open source software or public like Creative Commons licenses and things like that. It's like, so it kind of makes sense very quickly to people. And they really like that they're supporting us. Kind of like the certified organic, it's very simple to understand and pick up. So I, however, would really just rather play around with plants. I don't want to think about any of this. I want it to be the culture that we don't have to worry about whether or not we can share stuff or not, and just like pick up stuff, make friends, move forward, have fun, breed tomatillos together. Anyone wants to breed tomatillos? I love tomatillos. I encourage you to try some tomatillos. This was something that we discovered. It was a half hollow tomatillo in the field, and we selected it out of a population, and we call it geodes. Amethyst and emerald geodes. It's not particularly culinary, but it's really pretty. So it's just the little things, and removing the friction is really all I'm here to say. And I want to I want to invite everyone to share seeds with us, and because we exist because people shared seeds with us. And we want to further that impulse so we keep that moving forward. So talk to us about Aussie later if you want. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we get one more round of applause for the panel? Thank you all so much. So we have some time for question and answer, about 15 minutes, a little shy of that. And there's 2 mics on either side, like I mentioned. Here comes David, Benjamin, thank you. So if you can just queue up behind there if you have questions. And we'll go ahead and start with David.
Thanks very much. David Gould from the iPhone Seeds platform. That was an awesome presentation, all 4 of you. Thank you very much. I have 2 questions, actually. One is about geographical coverage, because you're all dealing with a certain country of operation, but our goal is to try and spread this kind of activity to other countries or other geographies. And so I'm wondering if you can say something about that. And just to say, Andrew, your idea of a map, we want to do that kind of thing, so we should talk some more about how we can make that go so we can disseminate this kind of information. So geographical coverage and how you can spread beyond your current borders. And then the second question I have is about multiplication of seeds, so that if you're dealing with a farming sector which is maybe beyond a smallholder that has just a hectare to something like on a scale that's in the United States or in Argentina, how do you get to that next stage?
Aussie operates directly in 4 countries: United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. And the reason that's partly having to do with the English language is primarily seed laws. It's easy to start small seed companies in those countries, and there's no national list that prevents people from listing a variety and selling it. There are a few Aussie Pledge varieties in Britain, in Scotland, and in England, and scattered around in other parts of the world, but they have to do twisting and special things to try to get around the laws. And they will do things like they will declare themselves a club. And the fee for membership in the club is you get the variety covered that way. You want to say more about?
Thank you for the question. I don't know where you are. Okay, I think that GOSI, the Global Open Source Seed Initiative, is a good platform too to think about the global extension or the geographical extension. There we have initiatives that from Kenya, the US, Germany, Italy, the Philippines, Argentina, and we are really open to broaden up that network. From Bioleft, we have connections with other countries, but they are not multiplying or implementing the trials or the seed multiplication yet, but we are in conversation to create a regional platform with countries from Ibero-American region. So yeah, we are really interested in that. And about multiplication, it depends. In the case of maize, we work with chacareros. That is a category very particular of South America that are like medium-scale farmers with certain degree of capitalization that also allows them to lose sometimes. And this is something really relevant because not everybody can afford to lose or to have a bad harvest. But in the case of Romero, we work with a feminist cooperative that are multiplying the seeds. They are organized, and it's been a pleasure. But it depends on the case of the seed.
Okay.
Thank you. I comment on the second part of the question on multiplication. Yeah, for us, something that we have noted is that people believe especially in Kenya and maybe the rest of the global south, that for seeds to be supplied to the farmers must come from seed companies. But for us, for instance, last season, which was in October, we worked with 100 farmers to multiply so much seeds that we supplied to 600 farmers. And therefore, multiplication of seeds in small scale work because of the numbers of farmers involved. And it can work away from commercial seed system, and for that particular case, it was emergency seed response because farmers in one region had lost all their seeds because of the climate change, and we were able to work with farmers in better region, more highland, to supply seed to the farmers who had lost their seeds. And this is the way it works, small scale, and then so many people involved.
Great, thank you. Steve.
Hi, my question is for Daniel, and I wonder if he could elaborate more about what did traditional seed exchange and seed saving like in traditional Kenyan culture, and how does your vision look? What would you like it to be now, and how would you plan to get there, and what would that look like? But was it before contact, and what is it like?
Thank you. In my community, there is a saying. It says, "Bego deimanago," and that means you cannot deny someone seed. You better even deny someone food, but not seed, because if you deny someone seed, then you have denied them their existence. So, and this is like from the very old traditional days when seeds were to be shared among the communities, and what is supposed to be to go as seed was always separated from food so that it can be preserved well. And this is the practice that multinationals, the seed companies, have been trying to break by all means, by creating laws that criminalize that, and also by trying to make seeds a commercial product through a narrative through the media and telling people their seeds are not good. So this practice continues, and it's a practice that has sustained the communities for thousands of years. So it's the same thing that we are promoting, but now a little bit more by creating community seed banks and making sure that people are also aware of this narrative that their seeds are not good, and being aware that accessing seeds through the commercial system only doesn't work. For instance, even if people wanted to buy seeds, the seeds that would come from the commercial system are only very few, maybe few commercial vegetables and maybe a few cereals. The rest of the seed must come from the farmers themselves, because based on the diversity, they are not commercially viable as seed. If seed company try to do that, they will not get money. But farmers need all these seeds to grow food, and because farms, especially family farmers, they grow food for consumption, so they cannot do monoculture. And companies are not willing to supply so diverse, and some of them are cumbersome. For instance, if someone wants to buy cassava seeds, no company will do. If someone wants to buy sweet potato vines, companies will not do that. So they must come from the farmers, and this is the only way to sustain diversity.
Thanks, Daniel. Thanks for the question. We have time.
This is a hybrid session, so we'll have some questions from online next. Is that all right?
Sure, we have time for just one more question.
One question.
Okay.
I know.
Okay. I'll ask
The
a
worst
quick
job.
one. Okay, so we have a question from Rebecca, who's online, who said one of the farmers she works with called yesterday to ask why there are fewer Aussie pledge varieties these days, like fewer folks pledging. So she was wondering if Andrew could speak to that.
So there was a big push for a lot of people that wanted to pledge all of their varieties when Aussie started, because there was a lot of varieties that were out there that wanted to be pledged Aussie. So there was many of them were pledged all at once in the beginning, and there's been like a pretty consistent trickle of new pledged varieties moving forward. I feel the past few years there's been a little bit less contact amongst seed growers and it's coming a little bit back to people are pledging again, people want to connect again and want to actually get their stuff listed on the website, and we are trying hard to reinvigorate that part of the website to get more stuff pledged. And I believe that it's going to look quite bigger pretty soon. So there was a little bit of a lull, but I think that had various reasons, partly our fault of getting stuff up on the website. But yeah, it's exciting to see the new stuff that's coming in.
Great, thank you. Any last comments before we wrap up? We have like a minute left. Daniel?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in this conversation. One thing that the people who are here might be surprised with is that in Kenya and some other countries, organic seeds are illegal, because all the seeds must be dressed with certain chemicals which are not allowed in the organic system. So we are not just struggling with seed access, but we're also struggling with a funny mindset that people want to control our seed system completely and make sure that farmers are not participants. Thank you. I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. Let's do one final round of applause for everyone. Thank you. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Please take a moment. There are individual evaluations for each of the sessions. We'd love to hear your feedback so we can continue to build the conference and the programming that supports what it is y'all are looking for and needing. And the next session begins in 15 minutes. So there are posters outside directing you to what rooms that you might be looking for. And again, there's between this building and the Alumni Center where check-in was. Thanks so much.